Well, ladies and gentlemen, after years of waiting for Scream 7, it's finally here, it's finally out. And what do we think? What is the general consensus of this movie? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it a franchise savior or killer? And I'm just gonna say it, folks. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about this movie. And full disclaimer, I'm not going to get into the whole bullshit that happened during the production of this movie before the production, because you guys already know how I feel about it. You know, I still felt like they did Melissa Barrera dirty with their freedom of speech, but I'm not going to talk about that. I went into this movie being a Scream fan, even though it was quite hard to just forget about how this movie came to be, because it is a cash grab at the end of the day. Let's be honest here. And I'm not going to say how I seen this movie, but spoilers without context. Maybe I had a link to a website. Maybe I have a connection through a movie theater. You never know. Arg me, mateys. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more problems with this movie than there are good. But you know what? Let me start out with the positives first. A thing I did like about this movie was the relationship and chemistry between Neve Campbell and Isabel May. They did have a good mother-daughter dynamic. You know, Neve Campbell, it was good seeing her again, even though I feel like it wasn't really a meaningful return. And Isabel May as Tatum Evans, you know, it was pretty good. I liked it. I just liked their chemistry. They had really good mother-daughter dynamic. The opening kill, the Scream 7, I'm not gonna lie, was pretty good. You know, burning down Stumacher's house. The two opening kills were really, really cool. And the animatronic Ghostface, it was a cool fake out, because throughout the trailer you think, oh yeah, it's an animatronic. Ghostface is gonna pop up in the shadows. And you know what? They pulled a fast one when it came to the opening kill. And I liked it for what it was. Another aspect I enjoyed about Scream 7, surprisingly, was how they treated Ghostface like a ghost in the shadows, kind of like Michael Myers in the original movie, to where you would see him in the shadows just stalking his victims, and just how brutal he was compared to Scream 6. So, you know, I will give it pointers for that. Hell, I even thought Joel McHale as Mark Sidney's husband was pretty decent, even though, let's be honest, we all know this is supposed to be Patrick Dempsey as Mark Kincaid, but, you know, money issue, even though there is going to be a scene that I had a problem with this character, which I'll talk about in my negatives. And then the whole first act, the first 30 minutes, I was kind of enjoying Scream 7, but this is where my positive stops and getting into my negatives, because, like I said, there's a lot more problems than there are good in this movie. And let's get into the negatives now. Alright, one of the negatives I had with this movie was Tatum's entire fucking friend group. I did not care about any of them. I didn't care about Hannah. I didn't care about Lucas. I didn't care about Chloe. I didn't care about her boyfriend, Ben. Like, these characters were so exposable that when they died, I literally felt nothing whatsoever. Also, I love how Sidney Prescott was so against Ben, Tatum's boyfriend. And I get it, you know, Billy Loomis, PTSD and all that. But dude, you trusted your neighbor much more when there were clear signs that she was fucking psychotic. Just like Lucas. Like, I'm just saying, dude, if you're gonna judge Ben, you should have judged your neighbor too. Also, I'm gonna say this, I did not care for any of the kills in this movie. This is where it starts to get a little goofy. I know Scream isn't really known for like its brutality and all that. It's just a simple stabby stab, slash with some gore here and there. But holy crap, these kills weren't that amazing. You could tell it was just a CGI mess. There was hardly any practical effects, which I love in a Scream movie, is how they do the practical effects when it comes to the kills of these movies. The only death I guess you could say was somewhat cool was Lucas, but even then it just felt like I was watching a Friday the 13th movie at that point, and that's not what I really look for in a Scream movie. I mean, yeah, like what Randy Meek said in Scream 2, more blood, more gore, carnage, candy, but at some point it's like, how are you going to say that Scream 6 was really brutal in the words of Matthew Lillard, but then in Scream 7, you're being way more brutal than Scream 6 ever was? And just the pacing of this movie felt so fucking off. And that's no blame to Kevin Williamson, because he's only ever directed one movie before he directed this one. But, like, I'm just going to say it, Kevin Williamson is a better writer than he is director, because the pacing just made no sense. Like, 1 minute we're at the high school dealing with Hannah's death, and now all of a sudden it's nighttime and we're back at Sidney Prescott's house. Like, what's going on? Like, let's take a minute to breathe and just kind of pace ourselves, you know? Also, this movie didn't need to be damn near 2 hours. There's so much you could have cut out of this movie and make it a simple 1 hour and 38-minute movie. It didn't need to be damn near 2 hours. Also, I'm just going to say it, I do not like that fucking bar scene, dude, where most of these characters get killed off, and surprisingly, Chad and Mindy survive yet again, which I don't mind, but dude, why would you split up? Like, why? You see, like, I don't get why they would ever split up in the bar. If they all just stood together and Lucas never ran off like a dumbass inside the kitchen, I guarantee at least one or two of them would have lived. Speaking of Mindy and Chad, I'm sorry, and it hurts to say this, they didn't really need to be in this movie. They served no purpose. Like, what, just to be Gail's, like, camera people? Just her, like, work people? You could cut them out with other characters and wouldn't make a difference. And I'm just going to say this. Why didn't they have a scene with Sidney Prescott? Especially with them being the nephew and niece of Randy Meeks. Like, they're staying in Sydney's house, and we didn't get one interaction with them. Like, Sydney mentioning Randy to Chad and Mindy, be like, yeah, I was really good friends with your uncle, and I know he had a crush on me, but he was one of the sweetest guys ever. Like, not just a 1 minute scene or even just like a 30-second dialogue of her acknowledging Randy. And boy, oh boy, I'm just going to say this. Gale Weathers should have died in Scream 6. Again, you can just cut out that character and it would make no difference. She served no purpose. What, to have her interview with Sidney Prescott to lure out the quote-unquote stumacher? It served no purpose. And I'm sorry, why wouldn't she at the final battle or trying to help Sidney get to the coffee shop when Tatum was under attack? Dude, she's literally at the radio station just sitting there like, cool. Bitch, you could have got out there with Sidney and drove her to the coffee shop and stopped the Ghostface killers before they even kidnapped Tatum. Like, again, we didn't need these three characters, and I still stand on what I said, that Gale should have just died in Scream 6. You already fucked up her character in Scream 6 by having her write another book instead of writing a book on Dewey. Like, what's the point of having her around if she's never going to evolve as a character? And don't hit me with the, oh, well, she's a journalist, that's her job. No. Because in Scream 5, it set up the perfect story arc for her to stop being like Gale Weathers, for her to just be a little bit more kind-hearted. But then what does Scream 6 do? You make her go back to square one, and now it's like, dude, just kill her if you're not going to progress her character at all. Also, before I talk about Stu Macher, let's talk about the killer reveals. Jessica, Marco, and some random serial killer named Carl. Dude, I am sorry, that reveal was fucking stupid. I do not like their motivation whatsoever. Marco didn't even have a motivation. He was just being a simp for Jessica. Also, for Jessica, her motivation was an allegory for the extreme toxic Scream fans. So I kept saying, Sidney can't have a happy ending. She needs to be in the Scream movies. It's that Scream without Sidney Prescott. You know what? Say what you want about Scream 6, but I will stand on this hill and die on this hill. Scream 6 proved that you can do a Scream movie, a decent one, without Sidney Prescott. What Gale Weathers said in Scream 6 was perfect. Sidney Prescott deserves her happy ending. She doesn't need to be in every Scream movie, because then what's the point? What motivation or what reason can you have for Sidney being in the movie? Oh, she has a daughter. That's cliche. That's cliche as fuck, dude. And with the way Sidney and Tatum killed Jessica in this movie, again, that's literally Kevin Williamson telling you guys that you guys are extremely fucking psychotic with the way they shot her up, dude. That's one of the very few good things about this movie, was with the way they took out Jessica. I found it quite hilarious. Also, one more thing before I move on to Stu Macher. Bro, Jessica straight up killed her son Lucas because he was showing signs of being like her abusive husband. Dude, that is psychotic. That's not even a good motivation. Like, how the fuck did Sidney not see that she was psychotic? You're gonna accuse Ben of being psychotic, but not Jessica? Like, bro, you've been through so many killing sprees. Like, they really made Sidney and Mark, who was a cop, just really stupid. Oh, I'm sorry. Why would Mark go in a garage by himself when he literally has cops around the house? Again, I'm surprised Mark survived. I thought he would have bled out and died, but yeah. Sidney, rookie mistake on accusing Ben, but literally falling for Jessica's trap. Now let's move on to Stu Macher. So, surprise, surprise, Stu Macher ends up being AI. The AI concept, it just looked cheap. It didn't look authentic. You can tell it was fake. But the fact that Sidney had to keep questioning it, and even other characters, like, come on, dude. Like, you know it's AI. And sure, yeah, we get to see Nancy Loomis, Roman Bridger, and Dewey again, but it doesn't really matter because their meaningful returns, they're not meaningful. It's just a cash grab because they know that they need to have some type of nostalgic bait to even get some money back. And yeah, sure, this movie's making money, but there's not that really many good reviews. And I'm trying to be fair and firm with this movie. I like the first 30 minutes of it. It has a strong first act, but the second and third act and the rest of the movie, along with the motives, reveal, and all the AI stuff, dude, it really brings down the movie. And I'm trying to be fair. And at this point, I think I would have rather had Stu Macher just return. I mean, yeah, it's fan fiction, but at least it's somewhat decent fan fiction. So yeah, Scream 7, I'm giving you a 5 out of 10. That's just me being nice. But if you enjoyed this movie, let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know. Let's talk about it.